Chapter 19 of The Jewel of Seven Stars. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Roger Moline. The Jewel of Seven Stars by Bram Stoker. Chapter 19. The Great Experiment. If any evidence had been wanted of how absolutely one and all of us had come to believe in the spiritual existence of the Egyptian Queen, it would have been found in the change which in a few minutes had been effected in us by the statement of voluntary negation made, we all believed, through Margaret. Despite the coming of the fearful ordeal, the sense of which it was impossible to forget, we looked and acted as though a great relief had come to us. We had indeed lived in such a state of terrorism during the days when Mr. Trelawny was lying in a trance that the feeling had bitten deeply into us. No one knows till he has experienced it what it is to be in constant dread of some unknown danger which may come at any time and in any form. The change was manifested in different ways, according to each nature. Margaret was sad. Dr. Winchester was in high spirits and keenly observant, the process of thought which had served as an antidote to fear being now relieved from this duty, added to his intellectual enthusiasm. Mr. Corbeck seemed to be in a retrospective rather than a speculative mood. I was myself rather inclined to be gay; the relief from certain anxiety regarding Margaret was sufficient for me for the time. As to Mr. Trelawny, he seemed less changed than any. Perhaps this was only natural, as he had had in his mind the intention for so many years of doing that in which we were tonight engaged, that any event connected with it could only seem to him as an episode, a step to the end. His was that commanding nature which looks so to the end of an undertaking that all else is of secondary importance. Even now, though his terrible sternness relaxed under the relief from the strain, he never flagged nor faltered for a moment in his purpose. He asked us men to come with him, and going to the hall, we presently managed to lower into the cave an oak table, fairly long and not too wide, which stood against the wall in the hall. This we placed under the strong cluster of electric lights in the middle of the cave. Margaret looked on for a while; then all at once her face blanched, and in an agitated voice she said: "What are you going to do, Father?" "To unroll the mummy of the cat. Queen Tera will not need her familiar tonight. If she should want him, it might be dangerous to us; so we shall make him safe. You are not alarmed, dear?" "Oh, no," she answered quickly. "But I was thinking of my Silvio, and how I should feel if he had been the mummy that was to be unswathed." Mr. Trelawny got knives and scissors ready, and placed the cat on the table. It was a grim beginning to our work, and it made my heart sink when I thought of what might happen in that lonely house in the mid-gloom of the night. The sense of loneliness and isolation from the world was increased by the moaning of the wind which had now risen ominously, and by the beating of waves on the rocks below. But we had too grave a task before us to be swayed by external manifestations. The unrolling of the mummy began. There was an incredible number of bandages, and the tearing sound, they being stuck fast to each other by bitumen and gums and spices, and the little cloud of red pungent dust that arose, pressed on the senses of all of us. As the last wrappings came away, we saw the animal seated before us. He was all hunkered up; his hair and teeth and claws were complete. The eyes were closed, but the eyelids had not the fierce look which I expected. The whiskers had been pressed down on the side of the face by the bandaging, but when the pressure was taken away they stood out, just as they would have done in life. He was a magnificent creature, a tiger cat of great size. But as we looked at him our first glance of admiration changed to one of fear, and a shudder ran through each one of us, For here was a confirmation of the fears which we had endured. His mouth and his claws were smeared with the dry, red stains of recent blood. Doctor Winchester was the first to recover. Blood in itself had small disturbing quality for him. He had taken out his magnifying glass and was examining the stains on the cat's mouth. Mr. Trelawny breathed loudly as though a strain had been taken from him. "It is as I expected," he said. "This promises well for what is to follow." By this time Doctor Winchester was looking at the red-stained paws. "As I expected," he said. "He has 7 claws, too." Opening his pocketbook, he took out the piece of blotting paper marked by Silvio's claws, on which was also marked in pencil a diagram of the cuts made on Mr. Trelawny's wrist. He placed the paper under the mummy cat's paw. The marks fitted exactly. When we had carefully examined the cat, finding, however, nothing strange about it but its wonderful preservation, Mr. Trelawny lifted it from the table. Margaret started forward, crying out: "Take care, Father! Take care! He may injure you!" "Not now, my dear," he answered as he moved towards the stairway. Her face fell. "Where are you going?" she asked in a faint voice. "To the kitchen," he answered. "Fire will take away all danger for the future. Even an astral body cannot materialize from ashes." He signed to us to follow him. Margaret turned away with a sob. I went to her, but she motioned me back and whispered: "No, no! Go with the others. Father may want you. Oh, it seems like murder! The poor Queen's pet!" The tears were dropping from under the fingers that covered her eyes. In the kitchen was a fire of wood ready laid. To this Mr. Trelawny applied a match; in a few seconds the kindling had caught and the flames leaped. When the fire was solidly ablaze, he threw the body of the cat into it. For a few seconds it lay a dark mass amidst the flames, and the room was rank with the smell of burning hair. Then the dry body caught fire too. The inflammable substances used in embalming became new fuel, and the flames roared. A few minutes of fierce conflagration, and then we breathed freely. Queen Tera's Familiar was no more. When we went back to the cave, we found Margaret sitting in the dark. She had switched off the electric light, and only a faint glow of the evening light came through the narrow openings. Her father went quickly over to her and put his arms around her in a loving, protective way. She laid her head on his shoulder for a minute and seemed comforted. Presently she called to me: "Malcolm, turn up the light." I carried out her orders, and could see that, though she had been crying, her eyes were now dry. Her father saw it too, and looked glad. He said to us in a grave tone: "Now we had better prepare for our great work. It will not do to leave anything to the last." Margaret must have had a suspicion of what was coming, for it was with a sinking voice that she asked: "What are you going to do now?" Mr. Trelawny too must have had a suspicion of her feelings, for he answered in a low tone: "To unroll the mummy of Queen Tera." She came close to him and said pleadingly in a whisper: "Father, you are not going to unswathe her! All you men... and in the glare of light?" "But why not, my dear?" "Just think, Father, a woman! All alone, in such a way, in such a place! Oh, it's cruel, cruel!" She was manifestly much overcome. Her cheeks were flaming red, and her eyes were full of indignant tears. Her father saw her distress, and, sympathizing with it, began to comfort her. I was